13 R&B bands from the 60s and 70s who had their careers ripped apart because of a stolen song. And here is what's going to stay with you. In most of these cases, these groups weren't the ones doing the stealing. They were the ones it was done to. Their songs, their names, their publishing, their futures, and the people who took it, most of them never paid a dime. This is what happened. Number 13, the Moonglows. The Moonglows didn't just make R&B. In 1954, they were R&B, and the song that should have changed everything for them was called Sincerely. Went to number 1 on the R&B chart. 40 below zero harmonies. Bobby Lester on the lead, Harvey Fuqua holding the whole thing together from below. It was one of the defining ballads of the doo-wop era, and here is what the industry did with it. Fuqua didn't co-write that song with just anybody. He co-wrote it with a DJ. Alan Freed, the most powerful radio man in early rock and roll, had a price for spinning your record. And the price was simple. Put my name on the songwriting credit. That was the deal. No airplay without a cut of your publishing. No negotiation. And in 1954, if Alan Freed wasn't playing your record, you didn't exist.
All you gotta do is be mine, 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 mine.
So Freed's name goes on Sincerely, and then the McGuire sisters cover it. White group, mainstream pop market, immediate major label push. Their version hits number 1 pop in early 1955. Stays there for weeks. The record that moved the real units and generated the real royalty money? It wasn't the Moonglows. The Moonglows sat at number 1 R&B while the checks flowed somewhere else entirely. But here is where it compounds. When the payola scandal broke in 1959, Freed was exposed for exactly what everyone already knew he was doing, taking money and publishing credits from artists in exchange for airplay. His career ended. He died broke in 1965 at 43 years old. But the songwriting credit on Sincerely, that was already in the paperwork, already filed, already locked. Harvey Fuqua never fully recovered it. If you were at a jukebox in 1955 and pumped a quarter in for Sincerely, you already know that feeling, and now you know the full story behind it. Number 12, The Drifters, original lineup. Here is a question. If someone fires the entire band but keeps the name, what did they actually steal?
The hot dogs, French fries they sell.
That's not hypothetical. That is exactly what happened to the original Drifters. And the answer is, they stole everything.
Boardwalk. People walking above. Under the boardwalk.
The Drifters started in 1953 in New York, built their name through multiple lineups and a sound that nobody else in R&B was making. But through all of those changes, one man held the legal power.
And your shoes get so hot.
George Treadwell, manager and owner of the Drifters' name, not co-owner. Full stop. In the music industry, owning the name means owning the brand, the bookings, the contracts, the continuity. And in 1958, Treadwell used that power in a way that should be in every music business textbook.
Under the boardwalk, we'll be having some fun.
He he fired the entire lineup. All of them. Then hired a completely different act. A vocal group called the Five Crowns, led by a singer named Ben E. King, and put them on stage as the Drifters. Same name, zero of the same people.
Under the boardwalk.
Then this new group, strangers to the name, recorded There Goes My Baby, Save the Last Dance for Me, Up on the Roof, Under the Boardwalk, some of the most beloved R&B songs in American history. And the original members, the people who built that name from scratch, watched it happen from the outside. Couldn't record as the Drifters, couldn't perform as the Drifters, couldn't cash a single royalty from a name they helped create. Treadwell kept rotating lineups for years. His widow Faye continued after his death. At one point, multiple groups were touring as the Drifters in different countries simultaneously. Some people calling themselves the Drifters had never met a single founding member. The name was a product. The artists were replaceable parts, and whether that was legal, and it was, or whether it was right, I'll let you sit with that.
My baby, where I'll be.
Real talk, only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's one coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 11, the Chiffons. So Fine by the Chiffons isn't just a song. It's the song that became the center of the most famous plagiarism case in pop music. Time it was all over, the person who made the most money from it wasn't the Chiffons, wasn't the songwriter, and wasn't who you'd expect. 1963, the Chiffons release He's So Fine, written by Ronnie Mack. #1 pop for 4 weeks. #1 R&B. One of those melodies that locks into your brain from the first 4. In 1970, George Harrison releases My Sweet Lord, his first solo #1. And almost immediately, people start noticing the melody, the phrasing, the whole feel of it. Sound familiar? Because according to a federal court, it should. Ronnie Mack had died in 1963, the same year the song was recorded. His publisher, Bright Tunes Music, filed suit against Harrison in 1971 for 5 years. And in 1976, the court found Harrison guilty, not of intentional theft, of what the judge called subconscious plagiarism. He heard the song, absorbed it, reproduced it without knowing he was doing it, and he still had to pay well over $500,000 in damages, with the final figure eventually exceeding $1 million once all the calculations settled. You just said his name out loud. I know this. Harrison's own manager, Alan Klein, purchased Bright Tunes during the lawsuit, meaning Harrison essentially had to pay the man who worked for him to manage the rights he'd been sued over. A mess inside a mess inside a mess. Recorded their own version of My Sweet Lord in 1975. Some people called it revenge, others called it poetry, but by then, their chart career was already in. The Isley Brothers. The Isley Brothers should have been as famous in the early 60s as they became in the 70s. The talent was there from the beginning. What wasn't there was a label that wanted them to win. 1962, they record Twist and Shout for Wand Records. It charts. Reaches number 17 pop, number 2 R&B. Not bad. And then, and this is the part that stings, the Beatles cover it in 1963, and the Beatles version becomes one of the most played recordings in the history of popular music. The Isley original, practically footnoted. Then they signed with Motown in 1965. You'd think that's where the story turns around, but this is Motown, where Berry Gordy's energy was on the Supremes, the Temptations, Marvin Gaye. The Isley Brothers got one real notable hit on the label in 3 years. This Old Heart of Mine in 1966. When their contract ended, they walked. And then they did something most of the other groups on this list never got the chance to do. They reactivated their own T-Neck Records, a label they'd started themselves, and in 1969 released It's Your Thing, #2 pop, #1 R&B, one of the most defiant funk anthems ever recorded. They didn't need anyone else's label to do it. They built their way out. But stay with me, because what the Isleys were able to build at T-Neck, that freedom, that ownership, that legacy, was the exception on this list, not the rule. One name higher up got hit harder than anyone else. Didn't just have songs taken from them, had 90% of everything they ever created taken from them, right at the height of their power. We'll get there. And whether the Isleys were undervalued, overlooked, or deliberately suppressed by design, you probably already know which side of that you're on. Number 9, The Moments. The Moments. If you came of age in the early 70s, this music lived in your living room. Love on a Two-Way Street. Sexy mama. Smooth, intimate, late-night soul that felt like it was made specifically for whoever you were thinking about at midnight. They were signed to All Platinum Records out of Englewood, New Jersey, and All Platinum had a reputation in the industry, not the kind you want. Here's what you need to understand about small independent R&B labels in that era. The deals were structured so the label controlled publishing, managed the recording budget, and could delay or reduce royalty payments indefinitely. If you were an artist at a label like All Platinum, what that meant in practice was you could have a hit and still not see real money from it for years. And if the label went under, which too many of them did, you might not see it at all. The Moments had real hits. Love on a Two-Way Street in 1970 went #3 R&B, #16 pop. These were charting singles, making real money in real time. Al Goodman, Billy Brown, Harry Ray, serious vocalists recording serious music. And they kept recording, kept performing, kept waiting. By the late 70s, the situation had become unsustainable. The group became Ray, Goodman, and Brown in 1979, in part to distance themselves from the label entanglements and start over with something they could actually own. Meanwhile, Sylvia Robinson, who ran All Platinum alongside her husband Joe, used that same infrastructure and industry knowledge to found Sugar Hill Records, where she'd release Rapper's Delight in 1979. She held me in desperation. One of the most financially transformative records in the history of hip-hop. The people who built her platform saw very little of what followed. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. Number 8, The Spinners. The Spinners spent 11 years at Motown. 11 years. And in that time, they had exactly one notable pop chart entry. It's a Shame in 1970, which made the top 15. 1. Berry Gordy signed them. Berry Gordy had them. And Berry Gordy kept them on the shelf. Here is what Motown's internal hierarchy did to acts who weren't at the top of Gordy's pecking order. Your production slots went to the Temptations. Your airplay budget went to Marvin Gaye. Your best material never quite made it to your record. There was a ranking at Motown. Everybody in that building knew it. And if you weren't at the top of it, you were serving a label that wasn't serving you back equally. The Spinners left Motown for Atlantic in 1972. And then something happened that should have ended any conversation about what Motown had done to them. Working with producer Tom Bell, who understood their voices in a way no one at Motown ever had, they released I'll Be Around. Then, Could It Be I'm Falling in Love? Then Came You, with Dionne Warwick, which hit #1 pop. They became one of the defining R&B acts of the entire decade. 11 years at Motown. Then within a year at Atlantic, superstars. That's not a story about a label forgetting to promote a group. That's a story about what gets taken from artists when the industry decides you're not a priority. What could have been theirs for over a decade, the production, the songs, the platform, the career, handed back to them only after they left.
But I know there's always a chance.
The Spinners didn't lose a song. They lost their prime years. And they did it at a label that was supposed to be the home of black excellence in American music. If you were nodding along to the Spinners in the 70s, you know exactly what I mean. And if you're nodding right now, you're not alone. Number 7, The Undisputed Truth.
Hey, don't tell the truth. Wow.
Smiling Faces Sometimes, 1971. If you know this song, and you should know this song, you know that opening, that slow, creeping, paranoid funk. Smiling Faces Sometimes, Pretend to Be Your Friend. A voice cutting through like a warning you didn't know you needed. Number 3 pop. Number 3 R&B. Massive.
And I got
Norman Whitfield, the genius Motown producer who created that record, gave it to the Undisputed Truth, a group he had essentially assembled and positioned as his laboratory. The place where he could experiment with what he was hearing in Sly Stone, in psychedelic funk, in politically charged soul, before refining that sound and delivering the finished version to the Temptations.
you can't see behind smiling faces.
That's the part that matters here. The Undisputed Truth got the experiment. The Temptations got the polished result. Ball of confusion, psychedelic shack. Papa was a rolling stone. A lot of that sonic territory was first mapped using the Undisputed Truth as the canvas. They were the rehearsal room for someone else's masterpiece.
Smiling faces said sometimes.
Then Whitfield left Motown in 1975, started his own label, Whitfield Records, distributed by Warner Bros., and took the Undisputed Truth with him. And for a moment, it looked like the group might finally step out from behind the Temptations' shadow and receive their proper spotlight.
Smiling faces tell lies.
but Whitfield Records collapsed in 1978. Warner dropped the deal. Acts on the label, including the Undisputed Truth, were left without a distribution partner, without momentum, without a home. The laboratory was closed, the experiment was over, and the group that had helped define a sound got almost nothing lasting from it. Smiling Faces Sometimes is a genuine classic. You have heard it more times than you can count. But the people who recorded it, who put their voices on one of the most chillingly accurate pieces of social commentary from that entire decade, walked away with far less than what they built.
Faces show no traces.
Number 6. War. You know Low Rider. You know Why Can't We Be Friends? You know The World is a Ghetto. If you were alive in the 70s, this music was the soundtrack of your neighborhood, your drive home, your backyard on a July afternoon. War. A multiracial funk band out of Long Beach, California, who built one of the most unique sounds in all of 70s R&B. Billboard's best-selling album of 1973, multiple gold records, one of the most criminally underrated live acts of their era. And then this happened. Jerry Goldstein, War's longtime producer, the man who held controlling interest in the company that owned the War name, used that ownership when things fell apart between him and the original members over money and creative control. The original members lost the right to call themselves War. Harold Brown, Howard Scott, Lee Oscar, B.B. Dickerson, 4 of the core members who created the sound that made this band famous. They couldn't perform under the War name. They ended up touring as the Lowrider Band, named after their own most famous song, which they no longer fully controlled. And Goldstein's version of War, with just one original performing member, continued booking shows and presenting itself as the official group to audiences who had no way of knowing the difference. Let me say that again. The people who created Low Rider had to name their touring act after their own song because they'd lost the right to the band's name. Charles Miller, the saxophonist who played on that record, who was one of the architects of that sound, his family reportedly struggled financially while the War brand continued generating income. The people who built it were locked out of it. Whether that's the industry working exactly as designed, I think you already know the answer. Number 5, The Impressions, and Curtis Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield was writing genius, and I don't use that word lightly. People get ready, keep on pushing, amen. Songs that moved congregations and civil rights marches and Sunday dinners simultaneously. Believe me now, have pity on those. Songs that told the truth about Black America in a way that felt like prayer and protest in the same breath. For years, Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions recorded those songs under contract with ABC Paramount Records. Which meant ABC controlled the publishing. Which meant every time someone licensed People Get Ready, every time it showed up in a film, a commercial, a cover version, ABC took the publisher's share. Not Curtis, not the Impressions. ABC. Here's what that means in real terms.
People get ready, ready, ready.
A song's royalties are split between the writer's share and the publisher's share. If a label controls your publishing, they take half of every dollar that song earns. Forever. That's the structure.
All you need is a faith.
For artists who had no power to negotiate differently, that was the deal. Sign it or don't record. Mayfield didn't accept it indefinitely. In 1968, he started Curtom Records, his own label, built to control his own work.
No key. Open the doors and borders.
When he wrote and produced the Superfly soundtrack in 1972, every dime from one of the most powerful film scores of that decade flowed through Curtom, not ABC. But People Get Ready, recorded in 1965, one of the most beloved songs in American music, still carries those old publishing arrangements.
The train to Georgia now, picking up passengers.
For every year that song earned money before Mayfield broke free, a chunk of it went to a label rather than the man who sat down and wrote it.
Believe me now, have pity on those.
Curtis Mayfield was one of the few people on this list who actually fought the system and found a way to reshape it. But it took years to get there, and those years cost him more than we will ever fully know. Number 4, the Chi-Lites and Eugene record. Oh girl, just those 2 words. But if you were alive in 1972, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Number 1 pop, number 1 R&B, a falsetto that felt like it was floating 6 inches off the ground. Eugene Record wrote that song. Eugene Record sang that song. It was his, and Brunswick Records made very sure it wasn't. Brunswick Records, run by Nat Tarnopol, is one of the most consequential cautionary tales in R&B history. Jackie Wilson spent his entire career at Brunswick, from 1957 until he collapsed on a New Jersey stage in 1975, and died essentially broke. The label held publishing, controlled royalties, controlled the clock, and that system applied to everyone they signed. The Chi-Lites came to Brunswick in 1968, and through the early 70s, Eugene Record produced, arranged, and wrote some of the most beautiful soul music of that generation. Have you seen her? Oh girl, stoned out of my mind. These weren't just hits. They were the emotional center of Black American music in that period. Pure, uncut soul. I needed right on time, you would always be. But Brunswick's structure meant that for all of that work, the publishing was held by the label. The control was held by the label. And when the Chi-Lites commercial peak faded in the mid-70s, Brunswick had extracted maximum value from their catalog while leaving minimum return for the people who created it. Eugene Record left the group in 1976. He eventually returned to gospel music, a man whose songwriting talent should have set him up financially for the rest of his life, working within a system that made sure that never happened. Oh Girl still plays. It still moves people. It still shows up in films and on playlists on a Saturday afternoon. And Eugene Record, one of the architects of early 70s soul, should have been made for life. Number 3, the Jackson 5. You know the Jackson 5. You already know. I Want You Back. ABC. I'll Be There. It doesn't matter what decade you grew up in. Doesn't matter where. These songs are in you. They're part of how you understand what music can do. So here is what I want you to think about. Berry Gordy signed the Jackson 5 to Motown in 1969. 5 boys from Gary, Indiana. Michael was 10 years old, turning 11.
Just look over your shoulders, honey.
And when they signed that deal, Motown gained something most fans still don't fully understand. They gained ownership of the master recordings. The actual recordings. The intellectual property. Everything those boys created inside that studio belonged to the label. This is standard practice. But standard doesn't mean fair. What it meant in real terms was this. Every time a Jackson 5 song was licensed, sold, played on the radio, or used in a film, Motown kept their share of the masters. That's not a small share. That's the foundational asset. When the Jackson 5 left Motown for CBS Records in 1975, rebranding as the Jacksons to mark the new chapter, Motown kept every recording they'd ever made on the label, kept releasing them, kept making money from them. And the Jacksons at CBS could perform those songs live, but they couldn't re-record them for their new label. Those songs were Motown's property. Michael Jackson spent years navigating the economics of having his most iconic childhood recordings owned by someone else. He became one of the wealthiest individuals in the history of the music industry, partly because he studied exactly how that worked and made it his mission never to be in that position again. He purchased the ATV Music Publishing Catalog in 1985, a move that stunned the industry. But the Motown masters from his childhood, he never got those back. 5 boys from Gary walked into Motown with the most commercially viable talent the music industry had ever encountered, and the industry made sure they'd be rich in fame and light on ownership. Number 2, Frankie Lymon and the Teenagers. Wait, I see you. You are already typing in the comments. And you should be, because this story is that specific kind of wrong. 1956. Frankie Lymon is 13 years old. He is standing in front of a microphone at G Records in New York with boys from his neighborhood, Herman Santiago, Jimmy Merchant, Joe Negroni, Sherman Garnes. They call themselves the Teenagers, and they record Why Do Fools Fall in Love, number 1 R&B, number 6 pop. The song that makes Frankie Lymon the most famous 13-year-old in America. Now, here is who actually wrote Why Do Fools Fall in Love. Herman Santiago and Jimmy Merchant. They wrote it, they brought it to the group. This is not disputed by the people who were there. But when the record came out, the co-writing credits listed 2 names. Frankie Lymon and George Goldner, the label executive who ran G Records. Goldner's name was on a song he didn't write, because in 1956, if George Goldner wanted his name on your writing credit, his name went on your writing credit. Then it gets worse. When Goldner sold G Records to Morris Levy in 1964, those credits transferred with the sale. Levy, A man with documented ties to organized crime, a man with a long and well-known history of exploiting artists, became, on paper, the co-writer of a song he never heard until after it was already a massive hit. Santiago and Merchant filed suit in 1987 to reclaim what was theirs. Morris Levy reportedly threatened them. They went to court anyway, and the court ruled against them. On a technicality, they'd waited too long. The statute of limitations had passed. The credits still read Lymon and Levy. And Frankie Lymon himself, the child whose voice gave that song its commercial magic, didn't see real money from it either. He spent his teenage years at the center of a hit-making machine that had no interest in preparing him for adult life. He struggled with heroin addiction through his 20s. He died on a bathroom floor in Harlem in 1968. He was 25 years old. He had very little money. 3 women who each claimed to be his legal wife spent years in court fighting over the rights to a catalog he barely owned. Why Do Fools Fall in Love kept making money. It still does. Diana Ross covered it. It's in films. It's on every doo-wop collection ever assembled. And Herman Santiago and Jimmy Merchant, the actual writers, the boys from the neighborhood who fought for decades and still lost, are the footnote in a story about their own song. That is a different kind of destroyed. Number 1, Parliament-Funkadelic and George Clinton. Parliament-Funkadelic dominated black music in the 1970s. That's not a feeling. That's the Billboard data. More than 40 R&B hit singles in that decade, 4 #1 R&B records, 3 platinum albums. Flashlight, One Nation Under a Groove, Aqua Boogie, Atomic Dog. George Clinton built one of the most innovative, most joyful, most influential sounds in the history of American music. He built it by hand, musician by musician, album by album, year by year, and then a business partner named Armand Baladian and his company, Bridgeport Music, allegedly took it. Not one song, not one album. According to a lawsuit George Clinton filed in 2025, Baladian's company fraudulently obtained the copyrights to approximately 90% of Clinton's entire catalog. The music he wrote and recorded between 1976 and 1983, the very peak of Parliament-Funkadelic's commercial power, 90% of it. Clinton alleges they used fabricated documents, forged signatures, and a systematic series of paper transactions designed to look legitimate while transferring ownership of his life's work to someone else. And here is what adds a specific cruelty to this. George Clinton's music became the most sampled in the history of hip-hop. NWA, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, the G-Funk sound that defined West Coast rap in the 90s. It is built almost entirely on P-Funk. And every time one of those samples was cleared or litigated, there was a rights dispute. And the man who wrote the original music, who played the original parts, who built the original sound, got almost none of it. In 2001, A U.S. district court ruled that Clinton didn't own any publishing rights to his own work from 1976 to 1983. He eventually won back some of his master recordings, but Bridgeport retained the publishing, the ongoing revenue stream from every third-party use of his music. Clinton spent decades in legal proceedings trying to recover what he alleges was systematically stripped from him. In March of 2025, at 83 years old, George Clinton filed a $100 million lawsuit. He is still fighting, still in court, still trying to get back what he says was taken while he was making records that changed the culture. The man who gave us the mothership, who gave us a vision of black futurism and communal genius and pure cosmic joy, is still in court. And that, every single time I hear Flashlight, is the thing that sits with me.